It's all right. Well, I chatted with Darren on the phone recently to discuss Elsie Fest, which is his music festival he started a couple of years ago. Well, I mean, he co-created it with some other folks. The festival is now in its third year, and it celebrates the music and stars of stage and screen, and will take place on October 8th in Central Park. It's going to be in Central Park for the first time. The show will be co-headlined by Darren, along with Leah Michelle, of course. They worked together on Glee. And Alan Cumming, in fact, will be there.
Very
In our
cool.
chat, yeah, I mean, not just them, there will be other people too, and you'll hear more about that in the interview. In our chat, Darren talks about some memorable moments from the first 2 years of Elsie Fest, what he looks for when booking artists for the show, and who's on his wish list for future Elsie Fest. And you might be surprised at some of the names that he mentions. So here's our interview with Darren Criss.
I dreamed a dream in time gone by, when hope was high and life worth living. I dreamed that love was...
Welcome back to the Billboard Pop Shop podcast. Darren Criss, how are you, sir?
I'm well, man. How many times have we done this? Is this number 3 for Elsie?
13. 13 times. Well,
We got
actually, no.
13 times. I was like,
No. We've done it a few times. You're a friend of the podcast, our pal
Well,
Darren.
thank you for having me back.
Well, let's talk about Elsie Fest, your annual celebration of the stars and songs of stage and screen. You guys recently announced the headliners, which is you, Leah Michelle, and Alan Cumming, and you've already announced some special guests, including Jeremy Jordan and Ingrid Michaelson. What is it that you look for when you're booking talent for the show? Like, what's the perfect fit for this show?
Well, it's we'll take anybody. Please, just do our best. No, that's not true. I mean, it's sort of it's sort of the alchemy of a lot of different things. You know, if you get somebody like Alan Cumming, then you kind of go from there. I mean, there's so many. Every year, people come up to me and go, "Oh, you should have at your festival. You should have this person or that person," and as if it had never crossed my mind. There's a master list of hundreds and hundreds of people that we would love to have at Elsie. It just has to do with the timing on, their part and our part, if it makes sense. I mean, there are certain people that we could have had this year that I was like, you know what, I feel like it might be better to have them next year, or maybe that doesn't really fit with this other person that we have. So it's sort of this like Tetris game of a lot of different factors. I mean, at a very base level, to answer your question that you originally asked, is like what we're looking for is the main thing is to get sort of a good crossover between pop culture platforms. It's not just Broadway, TV, film, new media, internet, all that stuff. We like people that kind of have a bit of a relationship with all of them, and or at least to have a couple names that really do. At least in sort of the headline sphere, and then
Right.
A lot of the other folks that we have, if they're more Broadway leaning or if they're more recording artist leaning, that's all good. It's as long as there's sort of this central tie between this love of musical theater. But
Right.
yeah, at the end of the day, it's just if you like musical theater, you can come and perform whatever you like.
Just show up and sing.
Just show up.
Get the top hat and the cane. Go for it. Tap dance.
Well, I will say that the second part of that question is, what are you looking for these people to do at Elsie? And I encourage all of them to do really whatever they want, and mainly to use this as an excuse to perform things they don't really get the chance to do. I really like it when, if you have, we had a great big Grammy Award winning, Great Big World coming with us, and instead of me making them play one of their songs, I was like, let's do a cover of Beauty and the Beast. So we did a trio of Beauty and the Beast. And then when you have somebody like Aaron Tveit, who's a TV and Broadway guy, who a lot of people who love him, want to hear him sing stuff from Broadway, he sang songs like Taylor Swift songs, and that was a huge hit. So, these aren't songs that they usually get the opportunity to do. There's no venue that would say, hey, would you mind doing this song or that song? They usually want to hear their hits. So, yeah, I really want it to be sort of a cross-breeding of a lot of different things that people kind of vaguely associate these people with, but they don't have a chance to kind of let that part of them shine.
Do you think, obviously I would imagine then that going into this year's show, which is the third show, with certainly you and Leah Michelle on the same bill together, that I was already thinking like, oh, well, I hope that Darren and Leah will sing together on stage. Is that something that you imagine could happen this year?
Of course. No, if it doesn't happen, not only do I think the audience would cry bloody murder, I'd scream bloody murder. I mean, that's the point, aside from, like I said, people doing songs they don't get an excuse to do. Every year there's been collaborations of people that show up and do songs together. I mean, last year, Cynthia Erivo was a guest of ours, and and Jason Robert Brown was one of our headliners. So, she ended up singing a song from Last 5 Years with Jason, and that was connected to a larger concert they did later in the year together, which was amazing. She came on stage with Pascal Paul, but now Tony and Oscar-winning Pascal Paul. She sang a song from what would be the hit musical Dear Evan Hansen. She sang the big song from that. So, we have a lot of people. Evan Rachel Wood came up and sang a song with me. We did a duet of Across the Universe. So yeah, it's all about, kind of having, they have those duets at the Grammys where they pair this one person from one genre and another one.
Right.
For these sort of like, you can only see it here moments. That's what we're all about. So absolutely.
Yeah.
Although Leah and I have sung many times before, I think what we'll aim for is to do a song that no one has ever seen us do together. And so, yeah, I'm all about that. And I encourage the artists to get really excited about, like, getting in contact with each other and think there's some kind of collaboration they can do with people on the lineup.
What's been like a personal highlight for you at Elsie Fest in the past? Like, a particular memorable performance, or maybe something you just got to watch as opposed to being part of, because, this is your baby. Like, you helped create this. You and some other folks have created this really cool event. What has been a really memorable moment for you? It doesn't have to be the number one moment, but just a personal, memorable moment.
Gosh, I have a few. I guess from the first one, because this is a very young festival. I mean, we really have such a long way to go. So every year is such a huge learning curve, and we're just so happy that, it gets somewhat pulled off, and people, no one's getting hurt, at least, not physically.
That's good. Yeah.
Emotional and mental scars aside. We're just like, thank God it kind of happened. So there was a moment where, I'm really proud of what has happened with some of our Elsie alum in the short period of time that we've been around. I've been really happy to see them realize their potential in the live music sphere. I think so many people, like the Leslie Odom Jr.'s and the Aaron Tveit of the world, are used to playing in New York Joe's Pub and 54 Below and lounge sort of cabaret venues. And I think for both of them, it was the first time they ever played to what can only be compared to sort of a rock festival vibe, because they're used to playing to, low lighting and velvet seats, and to feel that as a performer, I think kind of gave them the confidence to go out. And they've done shows in more sort of mid-sized, typically rock associated venues. So seeing them go off and do their thing from that I'm very proud of that. I'm proud that we were able to give them the venue and the perspective to know that was something they could do, and they've done well since then. I have a very distinct memory of Aaron going on stage just like any other day. He's used to this. He's a seasoned performer, and kind of watching the curvature of his performance. But by the beginning, he was doing like, all right, let's do another cabaret act. And then by the end, there's a great picture of it even that we have in our press kit where he's looking back at sort of people backstage and myself, just with this face of like, oh my God, this is crazy. This is unlike anything I've ever experienced. And that's deeply satisfying for me. Obviously I'm hoping the fans get equally, as thrilling of an experience, but, I guess I almost take that for granted. I'm just so happy that the, artists have the same thrill that the, audience does. And it's the symbiotic relationship. First thing you know, Aaron Tveit is suddenly feeling like a rock star, and then he performs like a rock star, and then the audience treats him like a rock star, and it's this sort of vicious cycle of everybody just feeling their best.
Right.
So that was a really special thing when people really rise to the occasion for this. It's not just some silly thing, hey, can you just sing another concert? It's a unique event for both the audience and the performers, and to see that happen on their face is really special.
to wrap up, who, and this is, I'm sure everyone asked this, but I will too. Hey, who is on your ultimate wish list for Elsie Fest? And before you answer that, I will say, like, you know, in some weird sort of alternate universe, and this could certainly happen, you never know, are we thinking like a Barbra Streisand, Lin-Manuel Miranda, Audra McDonald, like triple bill sort of thing? Or,
Yeah,
you know,
I mean,
am I aiming too high?
No. I mean, that would be amazing. I mean, there's so many people that I'm usually very reluctant to answer that question because I don't want to say like the obvious huge. There's obvious huge. No, I will. No, it's good to talk about because there's obvious huge stars that we'd be so lucky to have that, quite frankly, we can't afford. Not only monetarily, but just like cachet wise. It's like hey, do you want to play this little thing? It's like they got nothing to gain from that, and I don't hold that against them. So there are a number of people that are sort of folks. Some of the folks you just mentioned that certainly I hope to have in the future. But some of those folks you mentioned are very aware of the festival and have been very supportive, and we would love to have them. It's just, you know, we don't want to like insult them. But the reason why I was going to say I don't like saying specific names is because I don't want to throw under the bus the people we do have who we're so lucky to get and who are so wonderful in their own right. But I do like to answer this question with people that people don't necessarily think of. I think they're always thinking about performers, but I like to tell and make very apparent that there are so many people connected to the Broadway community that we forget, like superstars, not just the Barbra Streisands of the world. You know, don't forget, like Green Day has Green Day, The Who, Sting. These are all massive festival acts that, you know, have Broadway stints and have a life in Broadway. So, you know, even though that seems a far way off, I like putting people's heads in that box because I like Elsie ultimately being a place where you can see all these different people in this is the only lineup where you would see all those names, where you'd see a Barbra Streisand and a Billie Joe Armstrong. You're like, what do they have to do together? Well, they both have a love for Broadway and they both have a deep connection to it. And that's so cool because nowadays where the lines of genres are dissolving more and more, you know, that there's a coolness to that. There's like oh my God, I can't believe that I get to see these two acts in the same place. Because at the end of the day, if you're a fan, you're a fan. If you like cool music, you know, Barbara is really cool. Green Day is really cool. And to be able to see on the same stage would be so outrageous. So who knows? I'll tell you one person who I'd love to have that I'd be so lucky is Carole King. That'd be my dream one day.
I'm still stuck on the Green Day thing. I wasn't even thinking that way. And I'm like, no, that makes
nobody does.
sense.
But that's where my head's at, you know. And David Byrne has written musicals, and Fatboy Slim has collaborated with him, and there's just so many fantastic artists. And you know, Sheryl Crow was
Cyndi Lauper.
Forever ago. Cyndi Lauper. It just goes on and on and on. So yeah, you know, that's the headspace that I want people to get into. It's not just Broadway performers that have ended up in TV and film. It's people from all walks of the superstar life. That's why I always hammer home that to me, Elsie is really a pop culture cabaret. It's not just a Broadway thing, because being a musical theater fan is so much more than just musical theater. It's about loving all the things that inspire it. And so that when you start looking at it from that way, you start realizing how huge of a spectrum this lineup can cover. And I hope to get some of those people in the next couple of years.
Well, we are at a really cool point in sort of pop culture and Broadway and music from shows where everything is sort of commingling with one another, and it's, you know, there's all the lines are blurred, and that makes it like really great for a show like this, which is like a once a year experience, and it brings together performers for a one time ever collaboration. So, you know, it's really exciting to see this sort of thing happen, and I'm really stoked for you and the team putting this show together, and I hope everyone gets to go and hang out in Central Park and see Darren and Leah and Alan and Jordan and everyone. So thank you so much for talking to me, Darren.
Thanks, dude. Should we do the old plug of all the information? If you want to go check out more things about Elsie, you can go to elsiefest.com and follow us on social media, because we will definitely be announcing a lot more guest stars as the months progress, but you can get tickets on Ticketfly. And we hope to see you there. Like I said, if anything else, it's the most beautiful time of year to be in New York City, and it's a holiday weekend. So come from far and wide.
perfect combination. It's a holiday weekend. It's Central Park. The leaves might be changing or maybe not. I don't know. It'd be great.
Yeah.